The story of Zulcarnain, a journey through time and power. The story of Zulcarnain, Arabic Dhul-Qarnayn, is one of the most captivating narratives in the Quran. It is not just a tale of a powerful king, but a reflection of divine wisdom, justice, and the responsibilities of leadership. Mentioned in Surah Al-Kahf 18, verses 83 to 98, Zulcarnain is portrayed as a righteous and God-fearing ruler who traveled vast parts of the earth, spreading justice and protecting the oppressed. The Quran doesn't give his personal name, but highlights his character, actions, and missions. The name Zulcarnain literally means the possessor of two horns, or the two-horned one. Scholars have long debated his identity, with some suggesting he may be Alexander the Great, Cyrus the Great, or another ancient figure. However, the Quran focuses not on his identity, but on his moral and spiritual qualities. Let us begin the journey of this remarkable man who Allah gave immense power, knowledge, and responsibility. 1. Allah's mention of Zulcarnain. The story begins when the Quraysh of Makkah, seeking to test the Prophet Muhammad, asked the Jews of Medina to provide difficult questions. Among them was a question about a man who traveled the east and the west. In response, Allah revealed verses in Surah Al-Kahf about Zulcarnain. They ask you about Zulcarnain. Say, I shall recite to you something of his story, line 83. This introduction sets the tone that Allah alone knows the complete truth, and the following verses are a summary of his journey and deeds. 2. Allah's blessings upon Zulcarnain, a powerful ruler, granting him the ability to travel and conquer, and also instilled in him knowledge and wisdom. Indeed, we established him in the earth, and we gave him the means of everything. Surah Al-Kahf 1884. This verse implies that Zulcarnain was not an ordinary king. He was given special control over the land, knowledge of various sciences, and a divine sense of justice. His rule wasn't just military, but also intellectual and spiritual. He used these blessings not for tyranny or personal gain, but for justice and righteousness. 23. Journey to the west, the setting sun. His first journey described in the Quran is toward the west. So he followed a course until when he reached the setting of the sun, he found it setting in a spring of dark mud, and he found near it a people. Surah Al-Kahf 18d5 to 86. This doesn't mean the sun literally sets in a muddy spring. It's a visual description. As Zulcarnain reached the western edge of land, he saw the sun setting behind a body of water that appeared dark and muddy. At this place, he encountered a people who may have been living in ignorance or rebellion. Allah gave him a choice. We said, O Zulcarnain, either you punish them or show them kindness. His response shows his sense of justice. He said, as for one who wrongs, we will punish him, then he will be returned to his Lord, who will punish him with a terrible punishment. But as for the one who believes and does righteousness, he will have a good reward, and we will speak to him with ease. Zulcarnain established a system of justice. The wicked would be punished, and the righteous would be rewarded. His judgment mirrored divine principles: fairness, accountability, and mercy. 4. Journey to the east. The rising sun, Zulcarnain continued his travels, now heading toward the east. Then he followed another path, until when he reached the rising of the sun, he found it rising on a people for whom we had made no covering against it. We had no covering against it. These people lived in a land so barren and flat that they had no natural cover from the sun. They could represent a primitive society living without proper shelter or civilization. Yet, Zulcarnain did not harm them or conquer their lands unjustly. The Quran simply says, so it was, and we encompassed all that he had in knowledge. This implies that Zulcarnain understood their condition, and with the knowledge Allah gave him, he dealt with them justly. Perhaps he left them undisturbed or helped them improve their lives. Again, we see that his rule was not only vast but also deeply principled. 5. The barrier of Yajuj and Majuj, Gog and Magog. Zulcarnain's most famous mission is his encounter with the tribes of Yajuj and Majuj. These were destructive and corrupt people causing widespread harm. Then he followed a path, until when he reached between two mountains, he found beside them a people who could barely understand speech. The location was a remote mountainous region where Zulcarnain met people in distress. These people pleaded with him. They said, O Zulcarnain, indeed Yajuj and Majuj are causing corruption in the land. So shall we pay you a tribute on condition that you build a barrier between us and them? Surah Al-Kahf 18. These tribes were terrorizing others, looting, killing, and destroying civilizations. The locals offered wealth, but Zulcarnain, again showing his righteousness, refused to exploit their desperation. He said, That in which my Lord has established me is better. So help me with strength, and I will make between you and them a barrier. Zulkarnain asked for labor, not money. With their help, he constructed a mighty wall. Shamar 6. Building the wall. This was no ordinary wall. Zulkarnain used advanced engineering. Bring me blocks of iron. So they filled up the gap between the mountains. Then he said, blow, until when he had made it like fire, he said, bring me molten copper that I may pour over it. This iron and copper barrier was so strong that so they, Yajuj and Majuj, were unable to scale it, nor were they able to pierce it. He did not brag about his achievement, but humbly attributed it to Allah. He said, This is a mercy from my Lord, but when the promise of my Lord comes, he will make it level, and the promise of my Lord is always true. Surah Al-Kahf 1898. Zulkarnain knew the wall was not permanent. When the time of Allah's decree comes, it will crumble, and Yajuj and Majuj will be unleashed again, as foretold in other Islamic narrations. Who were Yuj and Majuj? Though the Quran gives little detail, Hadith literature expands. They are descendants of Adam. Their faces are wide, flat, and small-eyed. They are numerous and powerful. Near the end of times, they will break through the barrier. They will wreak havoc on earth until Allah himself destroys them. This future event is part of major signs of the Day of Judgment. Shagnaresh 8, Lessons from Zulkarnain's Story. The story of Zulkarnain is not just history, it is full of spiritual, moral, and political lessons. Shanar A. Use of power, Allah gave him control, yet he remained humble and just. He didn't exploit people or boast. This is a lesson for leaders. Power is a test. B. Justice and accountability. He judged fairly, rewarded the righteous, and punished wrongdoers, echoing divine justice. C. Faith and humility. He always credited his success to Allah, saying, This is a mercy from my Lord. D. Service to humanity. He helped people in need, like those terrorized by Yajuj and Majuj, without seeking wealth. E. Knowledge and wisdom. He used knowledge, not just force. His wall-building project shows understanding of engineering, teamwork, and planning. Number 9. Zulcarnain in Islamic tradition. Many classical Islamic scholars such as Ibn Kathir, al-Tabari, and al-Qurtubi wrote about Zulcarnain. While there are differing opinions on his historical identity, the consensus remains that he was a believing king. He had vast rule and advanced knowledge. He was sent as a means of justice, not prophethood. Some say he was a king of Yemen or Persia. Others suggest Cyrus the Great, due to his justice and inscriptions found in ancient Persia. However, all agree his story is divinely preserved for its lessons. The Quran does not mention Zulkarnain's death or later life. This silence may indicate that his deeds, not his end, matter most. His wall still stands, whether physically or metaphorically, until Allah's decree allows Yajuj and Majuj to emerge. Significance in the end times. In Hadith, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ described that Yajuj and Majuj would appear as one of the major signs of Qiyamah, Judgment Day. They will escape from the wall, they will drink entire rivers, they will kill and destroy. Even Prophet Isa, Jesus, peace be upon him, and his followers will take refuge. Finally, Allah will send worms in their necks, killing them. This shows the wall's future collapse is a matter of divine timing, not human failure. 12. Conclusion. The story of Zulkarnain is a timeless example of how a ruler should serve with justice, mercy, and reliance on Allah. Whether building a wall, judging a people, or traveling to remote lands, his actions reflected his fear of Allah and responsibility toward humanity. In a world where leadership often falls to ego and corruption, Zulkarnain's legacy remains a shining example of faith, strength, and service. His